I never thought I'd be one of those guys posting their marital problems on Reddit, but here I am. I guess I need to get this off my chest, and maybe someone out there has been through something similar. It all started last Tuesday when I got home from work. There was a package waiting on our porch addressed to my wife, Karen. Nothing unusual about that. She orders stuff online all the time. I brought it inside with the rest of the mail and set it on the kitchen counter. When Karen got home, she seemed surprised by the package. I didn't order anything, she said, examining the box curiously. It was a plain cardboard box from an online retailer we used before. Maybe it's a gift from your sister? I suggested. Her birthday was coming up next month, and her sister often sent presents early. Karen shrugged and opened it. Inside was a smaller, elegant black box with gold trim. The kind that obviously contained jewelry. I noticed her hesitate, just for a split second, before lifting the lid. It was a necklace. Silver with a teardrop sapphire pendant. Expensive looking. Karen's face went pale, and she quickly closed the box. Who's it from? I asked, curious now. No idea, she muttered, but I could tell something was off. Her hands were shaking slightly. That's when I noticed the small envelope tucked into the packaging. Before she could stop me, I picked it up and opened it. The note inside read, "For the unforgettable moments. I miss you already. Come back to me soon. M." My stomach dropped. M? Who the hell was M? Karen snatched the note from my hand. This must be a mistake, she said quickly. It was probably meant for someone else. I wanted to believe her. Really, I did, but the look on her face told me everything I needed to know. This wasn't a mistake. Karen, who is M? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. I don't know, she insisted, but wouldn't look me in the eye. Maybe the package got misaddressed? The shipping label has my name, but maybe they meant it for someone else in the neighborhood. I pointed out the obvious. It has our exact address. And your exact name. That's when she got defensive. Angry, even. Suddenly, somehow, this was my fault. Why are you interrogating me? She snapped. Do you think I am cheating on you? After 10 years of marriage? I was stunned by how quickly she turned it around on me. We rarely fought, and when we did, it was usually about mundane things like whose turn it was to clean the bathroom or whether we should visit her parents for Christmas. Not about mysterious jewelry from unknown men. I am not accusing you of anything, I said carefully. I am just trying to understand what's happening here. Well, stop, she said coldly. There's nothing to understand. It's a mistake. I am throwing it away. She grabbed the box and the note and marched to our bedroom, slamming the door behind her. I stood in the kitchen, feeling like I'd been punched in the gut. That night, she didn't come to bed until after I'd fallen asleep. When I woke up the next morning, she was already gone, supposedly for an early meeting at work. The package and the necklace were nowhere to be found. I know I should have confronted her more directly. I know I should have demanded answers. But part of me was afraid of what those answers might be. 10 years together, and suddenly I felt like I was living with a stranger. Little did I know, finding that package was just the beginning. The rabbit hole I was about to go down would change everything. I spent the entire day at work unable to focus on anything. My mind kept replaying the events from the night before, analyzing Karen's reaction, wondering who the hell M was. By lunchtime, I'd convinced myself I was overreacting. Maybe it really was a mistake. But deep down, I knew better. When I got home that evening, Karen was already there, cooking dinner as if nothing had happened. She smiled when I walked in, but it didn't reach her eyes. How was your day? She asked casually, stirring something on the stove. Fine, I replied, watching her carefully. Yours? Busy. The Johnson account is a nightmare. We ate dinner in uncomfortable silence, the elephant in the room growing larger by the minute. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. Karen, we need to talk about that package. She set down her fork with a sigh. There's nothing to talk about, David. It was obviously delivered to the wrong person. The wrong Karen Wilson at 1432 Maple Street. I challenged. These things happen. Maybe someone entered the wrong address online. Her voice was steady, but she wouldn't meet my eyes. If that's true, why did you get so defensive? And where's the necklace now? I told you, I threw it away, she snapped. And I got defensive because you immediately assumed the worst about me. 10 years together, and this is how much you trust me. There it was again, turning it back on me, making me the bad guy for asking reasonable questions. I trust you, I said carefully. But that note, it sounded personal. Well, it wasn't meant for me. She stood up abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. I am going to bed. I have another early meeting tomorrow. After she left, I sat there for a long time, pushing food around my plate. Something didn't add up. If it really was a mistake, why not just laugh it off? Why get so defensive? And why the sudden early meetings when she never mentioned them before? I hated myself for what I did next, but I needed answers. I went through the trash, looking for the package or the note. Nothing. Then I checked her purse while she was in the shower. Nothing there either. Finally, I did something I never thought I'd do. I checked her phone while she was asleep. She changed her passcode. After 10 years of marriage, she suddenly changed her passcode. The next morning, I called in sick to work. After Karen left, for another early meeting, I started searching our house. I didn't even know what I was looking for, just something, anything, that might explain what was happening. I found it in her nightstand, tucked inside a book she'd been reading. The note from M was there, but there was more. A small stack of similar notes, all signed the same way. Last night was perfect. Can wait for next time. Missing your touch already. 3 more days until Paris. Paris? We hadn't been to Paris since our honeymoon. My hands were shaking as I flipped through the notes. The final one made my blood run cold. Meet me at our usual spot tomorrow, 1 p.m. I'll be waiting. Tomorrow. Today. At 1 p.m. My wife was meeting this person somewhere. I put everything back exactly as I found it and sat on the edge of our bed, trying to process what I discovered. My marriage, my life as I knew it, was unraveling before my eyes. I checked my watch. It was just after 10 a.m. In 3 hours, Karen would be meeting her. What? Lover? Friend? I didn't know what to call this person, but I was damn sure going to find out. I decided to follow her. I know how that sounds. Pathetic, desperate, invasive. But what choice did I have? Karen clearly wasn't going to tell me the truth. So I waited in my car a block away from her office, feeling like the worst kind of stalker. At 12:30, right on schedule, Karen emerged from the building. She looked different somehow. She changed clothes, touched up her makeup. She looked beautiful, and it broke my heart to think who she done it for. I followed her at a distance as she drove across town to a small, upscale hotel downtown. The kind of place you go when you don't want to be seen. As I watched her walk through those doors, I felt something inside me die. But I had to know. I had to see it with my own eyes. I waited 15 minutes, then followed her inside. Walking into that hotel was the hardest thing I've ever done. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might burst out of my chest. The lobby was elegant but small, all polished marble and soft lighting, with a discreet front desk and a few plush sitting areas. I had no plan. What was I going to do? Burst into a hotel room and catch them in the act? Ask the receptionist which room my wife was in so I could confront her and her lover? Both options seemed equally ridiculous and humiliating. I settled for taking a seat in the lobby where I could watch the elevators and entrance. Maybe seeing M would give me some insight. Was he someone I knew? A colleague of hers? A mutual friend? The possibilities made me sick. After about 10 minutes of waiting, my phone buzzed. A text from Karen. Meeting running long. Might be home late tonight. Another lie, stacked on top of all the others. I typed back. No problem. See you when you get home. My hands were shaking so badly I had to correct 3 typos. I waited another 20 minutes, nursing an overpriced coffee from the lobby cafe, when I finally saw him. A tall man with dark hair, maybe early 40s, expensively dressed, walking confidently through the lobby toward the elevators. Something about him seemed vaguely familiar, but I couldn't place him. He stopped at the front desk, said something to the clerk, and was handed a keycard. Then he checked his watch, a flashy piece that probably cost more than my car, and headed for the elevators. I don't know what came over me. Before I could think better of it, I was following him. I slipped into the elevator just as the doors were closing. It was just the two of us now, standing awkwardly as floors ticked by. He gave me a polite nod, which I returned mechanically. My mind was racing. Was he going to meet Karen? Was this When the elevator stopped at the 5th floor, he got out. I hesitated for a split second, then followed him. He walked briskly down the hallway, not looking back. I kept my distance, trying to appear casual, like I belonged there. He stopped at room 512, slid his keycard, and disappeared inside. I stood in the hallway, frozen, unsure what to do next. Part of me wanted to pound on the door, to confront them both. Another part wanted to flee, to pretend none of this was happening. In the end, I compromised. I moved closer to the door, listening. I couldn't make out exact words, but I heard voices, a man's deep rumble, then unmistakably Karen's laugh. A sound I hadn't heard in weeks, maybe months. A carefree, genuine laugh that used to be reserved for me. I don't know how long I stood there, torturing myself with the sounds of my wife's happiness with another man. Eventually, I turned and walked back to the elevator, numb. In the lobby, I asked the receptionist about the man I'd seen, describing him as an old friend I thought I recognized. The young woman smiled and said, "Oh, you must mean Mr. Mitchell. He's one of our regulars." Mitchell. I thanked her and left, the pieces falling into place. Mitchell Roberts. Now I remembered where I'd seen him before. He was a client at Karen's firm. A wealthy businessman who'd been working with her company for the past year or so. She'd mentioned him a few times, always in professional terms. I drove home in a daze, pulled into our driveway, and just sat there, staring at the house we shared for 8 years. The home we built together. All of it suddenly felt like a lie. I went inside and poured myself a drink, then another. By the time Karen came home around 7 p.m., I was halfway through a bottle of whiskey. "You drinking on a weekday?" she asked, setting down her purse and giving me a disapproving look. "Rough day," I muttered. "Well, don't make a habit of it," she said, heading for the stairs. "I am going to shower." My meeting dragged on forever. With Mitchell Roberts? The words left my mouth before I could stop them. She froze, one foot on the bottom stair. When she turned to face me, her expression was a mix of shock and something else, calculation, maybe. Trying to figure out how much I knew. "What are you talking about?" she asked, her voice carefully controlled. "Your afternoon meeting, at the Westlake Hotel, room 512, with Mitchell Roberts." The color drained from her face. "You followed me?" Again, turning it back on me. Making me the villain. "You lied to me," I countered. "For how long, Karen? Weeks? Months? Was he the one who sent the necklace?" She didn't answer my questions. Instead, she exploded. "How dare you? Following me like some kind of stalker? Invading my privacy? What's wrong with you? What's wrong with me?" I was shouting now, the whiskey and fury a dangerous combination. "You having an affair and you asking what's wrong with me?" Karen's eyes narrowed. "You don't know what you talking about. I saw you, Karen. I heard you in that hotel room." "You heard nothing," she spat. You saw nothing. You, drunk and paranoid, and I am not having this conversation right now. She turned and stormed up the stairs. I heard our bedroom door slam shut. I slept on the couch that night. What little sleep I got. In the morning, Karen left without saying a word to me. But this time, I knew exactly where she was going. After Karen left, I called in sick to work again. I couldn't face my colleagues. Couldn't pretend everything was normal when my life was imploding. Instead, I spent the morning making coffee, trying to ease my hangover, and thinking about what to do next. I needed proof. Something more concrete than just my word against hers. If we were heading for divorce, and it certainly felt that way, I need evidence of her infidelity. So I did something I am not proud of. I went through her computer. Karen had left her laptop at home, probably in her rush to leave before I woke up. It was password protected, but we shared passwords early in our marriage. She likely changed it recently, like her phone, but it was worth a try. I entered her old password, our wedding anniversary, and to my surprise, it worked. Maybe she hadn't thought I'd go this far. I felt like an intruder in my own home as I clicked through her files and browsed her email. Most of it was work-related, nothing suspicious. Then I checked her deleted items. Bingo! There were dozens of emails between Karen and Mitchell, going back almost 6 months. Some were professional at first, then gradually becoming more personal, more intimate. They used their work emails but were smart enough to keep the messages vague. Plans to meet, inside jokes, references to our time together. Nothing explicitly sexual, but the subtext was clear. And then I found the smoking gun. Flight confirmations for 2 tickets to Paris, departing next month. A romantic getaway with her lover, planned right under my nose. The reservation was for a suite at the same hotel where we stayed on our honeymoon. I printed several of the most damning emails, including the Paris reservation. Then, almost as an afterthought, I checked her browser history. She'd been looking at apartments across town, small 1-bedrooms, perfect for a single person. She was planning to leave me. The pain that had been building in my chest suddenly crystallized into something harder, colder. If she wanted out, fine. But I deserved the truth. I spent the rest of the morning gathering information. I called our bank and discovered Karen had opened a separate account 3 months ago. She'd been gradually transferring money from our joint savings, not enough for me to notice immediately, but significant amounts over time. Preparing her escape fund. Around noon, I texted her, "We need to talk. Please come home after work." I didn't mention what I knew. Let her walk into it unprepared, the way I walked into that hotel lobby. She didn't respond, but at 5:30, I heard her key in the door. I was sitting at the kitchen table, the printed emails and bank statements spread out before me, a glass of water at my side. I was stone cold sober this time. Karen walked in and stopped short when she saw me. "What's all this?" she asked, gesturing at the papers. "Evidence," I replied calmly, "of your affair with Mitchell Roberts, of the money you've been moving, of the apartment you planning to rent, of your trip to Paris next month." Her face went through a series of emotions. Shock, anger, then something like resignation. Finally, she pulled out a chair and sat down across from me. "How long have you known?" she asked. "Not long enough, apparently. The necklace was my first clue, but I should have seen the signs earlier. You've been distant for months." Karen sighed, running a hand through her hair. "I was going to tell you." "When? After Paris? Or were you just going to disappear one day?" "I don't know," she admitted. "I kept putting it off." "How long has it been going on?" 6 months, she said, not meeting my eyes. "It started at the company retreat last fall." 6 months, half a year of lies. While I was planning our future, she was planning her exit. "Do you love him?" I asked, hating how pathetic I sounded. "David, just answer the question." She looked at me then, her expression a mixture of pity and defiance. "Yes, I love him. The words hit me like physical blows. Despite everything I discovered, some part of me had been holding out hope that this was just a fling, something we could work through. Why? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. What did I do wrong? That S, when her expression changed, hardened. It's not about what you did wrong, David. It's about what you couldn't give me. A partner who challenges me. Someone with ambition. Who doesn't just coast through life accepting mediocrity. Her words cut deep. I always thought we were happy with our life, comfortable, stable. I had a decent job. We had a nice home. We talked about kids someday, but had been putting it off. Was that the problem? Mitchell understands me, she continued, twisting the knife. He sees my potential. With him, I feel alive. And with me? I asked, dreading the answer. With you, I feel. She paused, choosing her words carefully, safe. But bored. I've been bored for years, David. I just didn't know there could be more until I met Mitchell. I sat there, absorbing the blow. 10 years together, and this was how she really felt. Safe but bored. It was almost worse than the affair itself. So what now? I asked eventually. I think we both know, she said softly. It's over. I want a divorce. And just like that, my marriage ended. Not with a fight, but with a cold, calculated decision. As if she were terminating a business contract rather than a decade-long relationship. I had one last question. Were you ever going to tell me the truth? Or just keep lying until you were ready to leave? Karen stood up, gathering her purse. Her voice was ice when she replied, you wouldn't have known the truth if you hadn't stalked me and invaded my privacy. So maybe ask yourself who really betrayed whom here. And there it was again, turning everything around, making me the villain in her story. Even caught red-handed, she found a way to blame me. She went upstairs to pack an overnight bag, then left without another word. The front door closed with a soft click that somehow felt more final than any slam could have. I sat at the kitchen table for hours afterward, surrounded by the evidence of my wife's betrayal, wondering where we gone wrong. It's been 3 weeks since Karen walked out. 3 weeks of sleeping alone in our king-sized bed, of coming home to an empty house, of friends awkwardly asking where she is at social gatherings. I've been telling people taking some time apart, because saying, my wife left me for another man, still feels too raw, too humiliating. The day after she left, I received divorce papers. She'd apparently been preparing them for weeks, consulting with an attorney behind my back. Everything was outlined neatly. Division of assets, sale of the house, even a settlement offer that seemed generous on the surface but would leave me significantly worse off in the long run. Classic Karen, appearing reasonable while working the angles in her favor. I hired my own attorney immediately. Sarah, a sharp-tongued divorce lawyer who came highly recommended for difficult cases. During our first meeting, she looked over Karen's proposal and actually laughed. She's trying to screw you, Sarah said bluntly. But she's made a crucial mistake. What's that? I asked. Adultery is still grounds for fault in this state. With the evidence they collected, we can push for a much more favorable settlement. I wasn't sure how I felt about that. Part of me wanted to be done with this as quickly and cleanly as possible. Another part wanted Karen to face consequences for what she'd done. In the end, I told Sarah to do whatever she thought best. A week later, I was served with revised divorce papers. Karen was now demanding almost everything. The house, the majority of our savings, even my grandmother's antique dining set that had been in my family for generations. Her attorney claimed I had violated her privacy and demonstrated emotionally abusive tendencies by stalking her. Once again, I was the villain in her story. Sarah advised me to counter aggressively. We filed our own petition citing Karen's adultery and financial deception. The separate account, the money transfers, it all painted a picture of calculated betrayal. 2 days later, I got a text from Mitchell Roberts. Of all people, we need to talk. Meet me at Westlake Hotel Bar tonight at 7. I showed the text to Sarah, who advised me not to go. Nothing good can come from that meeting, she warned. But I needed answers. Needed to see the man who had destroyed my marriage. At 7 p.m. sharp, I walked into the hotel bar. Mitchell was already there, nursing a scotch, looking exactly as I remembered from the elevator, tall, handsome in that generic corporate way, exuding confidence and money. When he saw me, he gestured to the empty seat across from him. "David," he said, extending his hand. "Thank you for coming." I ignored his hand and sat down. "What do you want?" Mitchell sighed, looking genuinely uncomfortable. "I wanted to explain some things. And apologize." "Apologize?" I laughed bitterly. "For sleeping with my wife?" "Yes," he said simply. "Among other things." A waitress appeared, and I ordered a whiskey. "I was going to need it." "Karen told me you two were essentially separated," Mitchell continued after the waitress left. "That you had grown apart years ago and were only staying together out of habit. That you, both accepted the marriage was over but hadn't, formalized it yet." I stared at him. "And you believe that?" "She was very convincing," he said, looking down at his drink. "But I should have asked more questions. The truth is, I wanted to believe her." My drink arrived, and I took a long swallow. "So, what, you, having regrets now? Think I'll forgive you, and we can all be friends?" "No," Mitchell said, shaking his head. "I am telling you this because you deserve to know the truth. Karen has been manipulating both of us." He pulled out his phone and showed me texts between him and Karen. Messages where she complained about me, painted herself as the victim of a loveless marriage. There were lies about arguments we, never had, about controlling behavior I, never exhibited. In her version, I was practically a monster. "She's been telling me you, abusive," Mitchell said quietly. "That you monitor her phone, control her finances, isolate her from friends. That you, threaten to take everything in the divorce if she leaves you." I felt sick. "None of that is true." "I know that now," he nodded. "Last week, she asked me to testify about your stalking behavior at the hotel. Said you, been following her for months, harassing her. That's when things stopped adding up. The Karen I was seeing privately didn't match the Karen who was handling this divorce." He showed me more texts, recent ones, where Karen was pressing him to corroborate her story for the divorce proceedings. To lie about me threatening them. When he refused, she, become hostile, threatening him with professional consequences. "She's trying to use me," Mitchell said, looking genuinely disturbed. "Just like she used you. I am beginning to think this whole thing was calculated from the start." I finished my drink, trying to process what he was telling me. "Why are you sharing this? Why help me?" Mitchell looked me straight in the eyes. "Because I made a mistake getting involved with a married woman, but I want compounded by helping her destroy you. And," he hesitated, "I am breaking things off with her tonight, after I leave here. She'll be furious," I said, feeling a twisted satisfaction. "I know. That's why I wanted to warn you. Karen isn't who either of us thought she was. And she's going to lash out when she doesn't get her way." He was right. That night, my phone exploded with texts and calls from Karen. Messages alternating between rage and tearful pleas. How could I turn Mitchell against her? Why was I ruining her life? Then begging me to take her back, saying she made a terrible mistake. The next morning, Sarah called. Karen had shown up at her office, hysterical, offering to drop all her demands if I would agree to reconciliation. When Sarah explained I wasn't interested, Karen had threatened to make things ugly for both of us. True to her word, she began calling my friends, my family, my colleagues, telling them I had emotionally abused her for years, that she only turned to Mitchell out of desperation. Some believed her, others reached out to me, confused by the conflicting stories. Then came the final blow. Karen showed up at my office, causing a scene in the lobby, crying about how I destroyed her life and stolen her lover. Security had to escort her out. My boss called me into his office afterward, concerned about the personal drama affecting the workplace. That evening, I met with Sarah again. I showed her everything. Mitchell's texts, the accusations Karen was spreading, the incident at my office. This is actually good for us, Sarah said, reviewing the evidence. She's spiraling, making mistakes. The more erratic her behavior, the stronger our case. We filed for an emergency hearing the next day, presenting evidence of Karen's harassment and false allegations. The judge granted a temporary restraining order against her and scheduled an accelerated divorce hearing. 2 days later, I received a text from a number I didn't recognize. It's Mitchell. Karen showed up at my apartment last night. When I wouldn't let her in, she threatened to tell my wife about us. His wife, of course. Mitchell was married too. Another lie in Karen's web. What did you do? I texted back. I told my wife everything myself. We trying to work through it. But Karen's still threatening to come to my office, to contact my children. They filed for a restraining order too. The hearing was set for yesterday. I arrived early with Sarah, prepared for a fight. Karen showed up with her attorney, looking nothing like the confident woman who walked out on me 3 weeks ago. She was pale, disheveled, her eyes red-rimmed. When the judge asked if she had anything to say regarding the evidence presented, Karen broke down completely. It wasn't supposed to be like this, she sobbed. I just wanted to be happy. Why does everyone hate me for wanting to be happy? The judge was unmoved. He granted the divorce, ruled largely in my favor regarding assets, and extended the restraining order against Karen. It was over. Finally over. As I was leaving the courthouse, Karen called out to me. Against my better judgment, I stopped. I am sorry, she said, her voice small. I don't know what happened to me. I don't recognize myself anymore. For a moment, I felt a flicker of the love I once had for her. Then I remembered everything, the lies, the manipulation, the calculated cruelty. I hope you find what you looking for, Karen, I said quietly. But I doubt you will. I walked away then, leaving behind 10 years of memories and 3 weeks of hell. I don't know what the future holds, but for the first time since finding that package, I feel like I can breathe again. Thank you all for the support through this nightmare. Your comments and advice helped more than you know. I am going to take a break from Reddit for a while, focus on healing and rebuilding my life. Maybe someday I'll find someone who values honesty and commitment the way I do. But for now, I am content being alone. It's far better than being with someone who can lie to your face for months without remorse.